Hi, my name is Phil. I like talking about politics. So to say a Nigel Farage government would be a disaster for the economy is an understatement. There are effectively two reasons making Farage a particularly insane choice. The first is that his government would simply have no economic expertise within it. The second is he has enthusiastically praised the economic policies of multiple world leaders who have all gone on to make their voters much poorer. If Reform voters think they may as well take a punt on Farage because things can't get worse, they may want to take a look at what happened with those whose ideas he has been praising. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So, one of Nigel Farage's biggest advantages is he can say, well, I've got no record. You can say that it would be a disaster, but you don't know that because I've not been in power. It's like, no, but we know that you praise people who have been in power. We've seen what happened to them. Let's kick off with what Nigel Farage's government would look like first, as this won't take that long. Let us imagine that Reform UK could maintain their polling advantage for 4 more years, which I've said before, there is good reason to doubt, but it's possible. Let's say they can and do win a majority, and with very fragmented voting these days, that is possible, and then they form a government. That government isn't going to have a clue. Not in the sense that I don't like their policies, not in the sense that I'd say, oh, the Tories don't have a clue. Literally, the government would be full of ministers who don't even have experience of being MPs, much less running or shadowing government departments. The country would crash and burn in record time. It would be like having Liz Truss back, only this time nobody would force Farage out. Reform UK MPs are unlikely to turn on him. And even if they did, who would they turn to? Nadine Dorries? Lee Anderson? Jesus wept. But an equally worrying issue is not just the complete lack of experience and competence, but the ideology. Look at the leaders Nigel Farage has hailed as his economic champions. Margaret Thatcher, who brought in trickle-down economics only to inflict 2 recessions on the country. And also, all those people in knackered coastal and industrial towns who cheer Farage. Who was it who knackered those towns in the first place? Thatcher. Then we have Liz Truss. Farage said her mini budget was brilliant. It almost caused a run on the pound. It sent people's mortgages much higher, and it destroyed a lot of value in people's pension pots. The pound eventually recovered. Those pension pots didn't. Farage agrees with Truss that the ideas behind the mini budget should have been continued, that it was the Bank of England's fault or something. If Farage wins power, he's said he wants a similar type of budget. Only panic in the markets may not force him to back down because his own MPs will believe him when he tells them to just weather the storm, because they haven't got a clue. Then he also praises Trump's economic prowess. Trump decided to declare a trade war on the whole world and got badly beaten up by China in particular. Farage wants to do the same thing on a smaller scale, but against our most important market still, the EU. In America, despite being the largest economy in the world and holding the world's reserve currency, things are going so badly that Trump is having to fire the people who report the economic data because it's disastrous. And now we have the chainsaw-wielding President Milei of Argentina. Now, to be fair to Milei, he did take over a knackered economy, like really badly knackered. Still, his plan to inflict massive levels of austerity on his country have been a double-edged sword. Farage praises the way it's narrowed the deficit and controlled inflation, but it has come at a cost to its people, many of whom are now in desperate poverty. When Milei came to power, he wasted no time. He moved with speed and ferocity that caught a lot of people by surprise, launching what can only be described as a full frontal assault on the state. This wasn't incremental reform, it was shock therapy. One of his first moves was to slash the number of government ministries, cutting them in half basically, from 18 down to 9. This wasn't just symbolic, this is dismantling the state. You think Cameron and Osborne gave us austerity? Try destroying literally half of all government departments on for size, not just cutting their budgets. Imagine that. Suddenly, the Justice Department's gone. We've got no one running prisons. The business department's gone. We've got no one doing trade deals. Oh my God, what's happened to culture? Half of our government departments, just imagine that. Pick any half you like. Just imagine them not being there. Like the government just doesn't run those things anymore. Not just a cut budget, department gone. Then came the layoffs. About 50,000 public sector workers suddenly, within 6 months, jobless. That is a brutal blow to the families, but also the communities. Think about all those pay packets, all of a sudden not swirling around those local economies, not being spent there. And the businesses that had to close down because of that. That would be even more in the UK. We've got a larger population and economy, so it would be way more civil servants get chopped. He didn't even stop there. Millet then lifted price caps on essential utilities and rents, a move that saw gas prices triple overnight for a lot of Argentines. That turned basic living costs into an impossible burden for many. Subsidies for public transport, which is a lifeline for millions, gone, or slashed at any rate. Metro fares, for instance, jumped up 360%. That made the daily commute unaffordable for a lot of workers. Then the currency. The peso was devalued by more than 58% in one move, an attempt to unify the chaotic multiple exchange rates and stabilise the economy. He also pushed aggressively for privatisation, which of course then means you pay more for those services when you've now got less money. He targeted state-owned enterprises like the National Airline, Post Office, big chunks of the energy sector, saying, oh, usual thing, Thatcherite, oh, they're inefficient, let's privatise them, make them more efficient. Yeah, we've seen how that's worked in the UK, haven't we? And to cap it all off, he signed a deal with the International Monetary Fund that effectively froze public investment, further tightening the screws on government spending. All of these drastic measures, he said, were in the name of achieving a fiscal surplus or death. No middle ground, no compromises, just raw, unyielding austerity. But of course, he wasn't gambling with his own life, but those of millions of vulnerable Argentines. It was a sacrifice he was willing to make, you might say. Macroeconomists on the TV, you hear them talking about, percentages and abstract figures. But for Argentines, those percentages hit them hard. They feel that in empty pockets and rumbling stomachs. Retirees, very vulnerable. Queuing at the pharmacies with a desperate hope because their pensions, drastically devalued and then frozen, no longer cover the cost of essential blood pressure pills or other life-saving medications. The choice between food and medicines become a daily agonising reality for many who dedicated their lives to the country. Oh, what's that? Oh, they'd get their drugs for free in the UK? Not with Farage, who said he wants us to move to a private insurance model. He really wants a US model, but he can't say that. Well, he did say that on film once, but he regrets it. So now he says he'd copy France. Makes no difference. People in France have to pay for top-up private insurance as well. I mean, then we think about how Millet played the political game in Argentina. Step one, frame the crisis. It's never just a complex economic problem, right? It's always the fault of a corrupt, entrenched elite, a caste of insiders who are actively working against the common people, right? Millet nailed this. He blamed the thieves and the money printers. Step two, promise a dramatic, magical fix. No gradual change. No, we're going to turn things around. No nuanced policy. A single sweeping solution that instantly solves everything. For Millet, it was the chainsaw. Total deregulation, dollarization. For Farage, it is dismantling the woke establishment, by which he means the civil service, the people who keep public services running. Step three, when the inevitable pain arrives, you claim, oh, it's just surgery without anaesthetic. Dismiss any suffering as a necessary evil, a painful but ultimately beneficial step towards recovery. Oh, just what you wait, a few years' time, it'll all be marvellous. And anyone who dares to question the plan, they're not critics. No, they're traitors. Part of the corrupt elite trying to undermine the will of the people. They are enemies of the state, or communists. Trump has been doing a lot of this as well as Millet. Same playbook, and the same playbook Farage will use. Step four, keep the base angry. Keep the cameras flashing. Keep facts optional. Maintain a constant state of outrage. Feed the narrative of an ongoing battle against dark forces and ensure that emotional appeals trump, if you'll pardon the expression, rational debate. Does that sound familiar? It should. Nigel Farage, the architect of Brexit, ran exactly the same place during Britain's disastrous departure from the EU. He expertly blamed migrants and faceless EU bureaucrats for Britain's problems, painting them as the cause of everything from overcrowded hospitals to stagnant wages. He offered Brexit a clean break as the miracle cure. That was his magic fix. the panacea for all of Britain's ills. And when the pound tanked or businesses warned of impending supply chain chaos, Farage just dismissed it as Project Fear, a desperate attempt by the establishment to scare the public. Nowadays, of course, he admits that Brexit was a disaster. Oh, but it's not his fault. And both of these people, Millet and Farage, are masters at selling incredibly simple stories to incredibly complex problems. And both thrive precisely when established institutions and traditional politicians look ineffective and out of touch. Farage's Brexit project was a disaster. He says so himself now. He got away with it by saying the Tories cocked it up. In reality, they did exactly what he said they should do. But more than that, those he admires have run economies in 3 different countries and run them into the ground. Trump is going to give tens of billions of US tax dollars to Argentina to prop up his fellow fascist. Millet's dangerous experiment has failed, just like Trump's and Truss's. Trump will get away with it for longer because the US economy is so huge, it takes a long time to destroy it. But figures show it's going in that direction. The UK economy, on the other hand, is going in the right direction. Incomes at the lower end have been going up. We've had the longest sustained period of growth for years. We're getting more money into public services, housing, energy. Farage will reverse it all. He will become richer. His donors will become richer. But he'll leave the rest of us counting the cost. Even his supporters, even if they finally see him for who he is, will basically be impossible for a future government to repair the damage. And there's no guarantee they'll even see through the sham, even when they see what real poverty is like. If people want to see what a Farage economic mission looks like, look no further than the countries run by people he has championed, he has praised. Look at what it's doing to the people there. And let's not forget that under Farage, UKIP committed acts of fraud which resulted in one of his former colleagues going to prison. So his government won't just be incompetent and pursuing already failed ideologies like trickle-down economics, it will be corrupt as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind-the-scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.